it's an incredible insight to be gained, to know that you can fight and overcome anything that is thrown your way.
The main reason is to test myself, to see what I'm capable of.
The story of why we're here and why we're doing it for breast cancer. You think life's too short and you really do have to live it, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. 154 days to go.
We haven't seen the sunshine about a week.
You only have one life, so you might as well make the most of it.
Jesus, he's here!
The girls aren't going to break any records. They're actually going to establish records because this has never been done before.
The quote goes that you can never cross an ocean unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. And that's where your real achievements lie.
Fire and we lost the MPPT box.
I believe that everyone has their own Pacific to cross.
Hi everyone!
How's it going?
Aloha! Welcome to the Losing Sight of Shore audio commentary. I'm Sarah Moshman, the director and producer of the film. This is...
Who are you pointing at?
You!
I'm Alana. I don't know what my official title is, but I did camera work throughout the film.
Cinematographer.
Oh,
yeah.
Cinematographer.
Yes.
Excuse.
And then who do we have here?
I am Sarah's husband, Ryan Morrison. Sometimes Ryan Moshman, depending on who we're talking to.
Take it.
I was the sunscreen boy.
And
audio.
And drone and bounce card and
yes.
And
Special thanks
catch-all
All-Star.
Yeah. Special thanks All-Star. I love that.
carry the stuff, guys.
Yes.
Man.
Well, in a very important way.
Oh, I mean, I carried a lot of things because there are many more important
You
things to do.
carried a lot of emotional loads as well,
That's
let's be honest.
Very true.
So
The emotional baggage was the most important.
Yes. So the three of us really served as like the core team to make this film, and just a brief overview of how it worked, and then we're going to get the film started, and so you can follow along with us, or you can just listen. But basically, the way it worked is I met the Coxless crew, as we know and love, only like 2.5 months before they left San Francisco, which is insane. I got an email in late January 2015 from this amazing woman named Fiona Tatton. And she emailed me and said, "Hey Sarah, these 4 women are about to get in a boat and row across the Pacific Ocean. I thought you might want to know about it." And it's actually really nice to have you here in this room to talk about this, Ryan, because I remember telling Ryan, I was like, yeah, I'm going to Skype with these 2 women who are like rowing the ocean. It's crazy, but whatever. And then by the end of that Skype, I like remember going over to you and being like, "Oh, I'm making this film."
And I think you had
Do you remember this?
Yeah, no, you had just finished the Empowerment Project.
Like several months before, but we were like in the midst of distributing my first film.
But I'm not a filmmaker in any regard, and so I like that it scarred me. I was like, this is so much work. It was so emotionally taxing on me.
Yes.
And then you're like, I'm not going to do another project for like a while.
Crazier project.
And then you're just like, I have to do this. And I was like,
yeah. So
okay.
That's how amazing the story was to me. I was like, this is incredible. I didn't even know that human beings did this. Women, anybody.
They still don't.
They still really don't.
That's not
row across
very few.
oceans, yes. So I went to San Francisco without these 2 lovely human beings, sadly. But I worked with my wonderful friend Adam Severi, and we rented equipment, and we went up to San Francisco and got to spend some time with Laura and Emma and Natalia and Izzy, who's on leg 1 of the journey. And we met their families, and we filmed the boat, and we saw them out on the ocean practicing, and it was really thrilling to meet them for the first time. So I talked to them on the phone and on Skype at length. And so to meet them for the first time was amazing. And then they left, and I supplied them with cameras. The camera, actually, fun fact, the camera that we're using to film this podcast was on the boat. you can't really see it, but the camera that we're using was very famous.
I knew I recognized it.
This served from Samoa to Cairns, Australia. More on that later, why it wasn't the same one. So anyway, that was kind of the beginning, and they left in April of 2015 at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I remember wondering, why are we out at 3 a.m. Filming this? And it's because of tides. So it shows how little I knew about this process.
Spoiler alert.
So why don't we get the film started, because we have a lot to cover. But just wanted to give a little backstory that these women had their own cameras on the boat. There was no camera boat, no follow boat whatsoever at sea. So people often think there was a whole crew following them along, and there was not. So we were the crew once they got to land. So we're going to start the film. If you'd like to follow along, you can. If not, you can also just listen, and you'll hear some of the audio from the film. So we will cue it up.
Make sure we got the film ready to start.
Okay, ready? And 3, 2, 1, play! Okay, so we start with this quote: "You can never cross the ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore."
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I loved when we came up with the idea for the title. I was like, that's it! Because that quote was actually something that was really important to me when I was in college. My dad said that to me, and that helped me get through my homesickness in college. And then I saw that same quote on the Coxless Crew website, and I thought that seems
I didn't remember that.
to go together. Yeah.
Well, she came to me too and was like, "You're really good with naming beers and like doing all this stuff. Like,
I was like, you're gonna think of the title.
You're gonna come up with it." And I was like, "Oh my God, okay, cool." I'm like trying to think of all these things, and then she comes back like 5 minutes later. She's like, "Losing sight of shore." I was like, damn.
I know. I kept thinking of something from like "Row, row, row your boat." Like maybe there'd be a part of that lyric.
Yeah, sure.
But no, that was.
I'm terrible at naming also.
Really?
I have my naming friends who are quite good, and they're who I go to, and I'm currently looking for like 4 different names.
Nice.
Just haven't found them.
Okay, so this is like my favorite shot in the whole movie probably, because it goes so incredibly wide. This was when we were on a boat in Australia. We had traveled 6 or 7 hours offshore to meet them. And our drone
like
operator,
2:30
Terry.
in the morning.
Yeah, remember we had to get up like 2:30 in the morning
Yep.
to get these shots? Ooh, I love that shot. And that was our drone operator, Terry.
I always follow the mahi that's off the edge of the boat.
Oh,
I always
yeah.
try and see how far back you can see it.
Yeah. I'd say
Sorry
that
you've now missed that.
the beginning, I think, and the end of the film were the hardest to cut together, certainly, as any film, I think. So these first, like, 5-7 minutes took a lot of finessing. And we wanted to, in this opening sequence, to really establish the danger that's involved in rowing the ocean. So we pulled all these other stories of people that hadn't succeeded rowing the ocean or had trouble to kind of set the tone of how dangerous this is. So Peter Seraphim, our incredible editor, who I'm sure we'll mention a bunch, he did this graphical template, and we just love it because it really ties together, like the newspaper headline part of this.
Yeah, shout out to Pete.
Shout out to Pete.
Shout out to Pete.
What up, Pete?
He'll probably have to cut this together too.
We will not put him to work. And then these were headlines that we pulled but also created ourselves to kind of help give the base facts about what this was. It was 4 women, that it was set to take about 6 months. We had a lot of information to get across to the audience in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
In order to establish the story.
That's great. I didn't know that. I mean, obviously looking at them now, some of those are just simple facts you need to know, but I hadn't thought about if you created
there was
some
lots
of the lines.
Headlines, but we had to create our own to just be like, all right, what's the who, what, where, when,
What
why?
does the text of the newspapers say? Is it
Oh,
Lorem
nothing.
Ipsum?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it doesn't say
That's
anything.
awesome.
All right, so this is our shoot in San Francisco. This is at 3 o'clock in the morning. Adam Severi was the cinematographer for this scene, and I think he did such a great job. We were shooting on the Red at this point, and these interviews were done in San Francisco in a loft apartment. And then this footage that we're seeing of Laura rowing is from her footage of training. So Laura Penhall, our team leader, who we love so much, shout out to Laura, worked on this and trained for this journey for 4 years before getting to the start line. So this project, although the film wasn't in process till I came on board, the project was in process for about 4 years before they left. So that involved a lot of preparation, a lot of fundraising, getting sponsors on board. So this was a massive undertaking even before the three of us even knew they existed. So although the film took about 2 years to make, the project as a whole was about 6 years, I guess.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So here we're seeing a picture of Meg and Lizanne, and that was very intentional because as we learn soon in the film, there's going to be 2 other rowers that join the team, and so we wanted to kind of plant that seed. Also, in this list that Emma's making, it says something to the effect of foreshadowing what's to come, that they might lose power as well. So we love these little Easter eggs that were planted at the beginning.
I love Laura's just casually like, yeah, there's going to be no follow boat. Like, you know, we could just jump onto the other boat and it'd be super comfortable. So, no.
So we're not doing that. I love all the parents of the rowers were just so, you know, we felt for them that their children were about to get into this boat and nobody knew what was going to happen. We can't stress that enough, that no one knew if they were going to make it or not, what would happen, if they'd get sick, if they'd get injured, if they'd want to quit. All of us were taking this huge leap of faith, although we weren't in the boat. The parents, the crew, you know, the women, of course, there was so much risk involved for everybody. And they're all from England and South Africa, so they had traveled so far to be here.
I was also the chief mover of all the things in the background for the parent interviews.
Oh, yes.
So they had to get all sorts of medical testing ahead of time to make sure that they would be in okay condition to take on such a feat, right?
Oh my gosh, totally. And they were of all different ages. I love that. One might assume that these women were all like 18, 22.
And best friends.
And best friends, yeah. And they were between 25 and 40, and they didn't know each other that well. They had to get to know each other in the training and then, of course, at sea, which I think is amazing.
I mean, did Emma and Laura know each other before? I don't think so, right?
No.
But they were the first 2, so they obviously spent the most time together.
In preparation, yeah.
So it wasn't until Laura decided to do this and take this on, and then she opened up to applicants that any one of these women met each other.
Yeah, and she had lots of women kind of come in and out of this project before these 4 were solidified. Because as you can imagine, if this takes years to actually pull off, you know,
lives change.
Yeah, women maybe want to focus on their family or have a job or career change or move. So a lot of different people came in and out of this to form finally these 4.
Plus 2.
Plus 2. So yeah, I guess it's important to mention, like, I knew by the time I met them in San Francisco that Izzy wasn't going to be going on past San Francisco.
Really? I don't remember when. I must have known then too.
Yeah, I think, but we don't reveal it for a while.
Until
so that
later,
was important to understand. And it was confusing. At first I thought, oh, it's not going to be the same 4 women the whole time. That kind of, does that ruin our story? Like, what's it going to be like? And it ended up to be such a huge blessing that one seat on the boat essentially rotated, and there were 3
different women for all the 3 legs in that 4th seat.
Yes. So it's really 6 women. And when you see this on the map, doesn't it really just bring it home how
really
crazy
does.
it is?
It's just funny to look at how like smooth and easy that pattern looks. Yeah, we just go
zip over. Yeah.
Just go left and then down and then left. No big deal.
Unbelievable. Yeah, sometimes people ask if they would row back. I'm like, what? Well, that's not even possible.
Brian almost just spit out his coffee.
Why? God, her parents were so pissed. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, they were not happy.
Rightfully.
Yeah.
I mean, fair,
I can't even imagine. Now that we're parents, it's like, can you imagine? If Bryce was like, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm going to row the ocean.
We'd be like, you're 2. Whatever.
That makes no
go ahead.
sense.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
First. We're like, you're drunk.
So being 2 is being drunk.
Yes,
It's,
pretty much.
Drunk adult.
Yes. Doris is the name of the boat, and as far as I understand through Laura, Doris was named after some kind of Greek goddess.
I don't remember that either.
That does not sound like a Greek name.
I know, but it was. And they kept calling the boat Doris kind of as a joke, and then they kept it.
It was something Doris, like Theodorus. Like it was a something with a Doris.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay.
And that's much more Greek.
Yeah.
Something
Agamemnon
Doris.
and Doris.
So it's important to note, as I watched them row away at 3 a.m. under the Golden Gate Bridge, I threw up a lot. Like, I was so
didn't know
nervous.
that.
Oh, yeah. And when I got back to my room, I just was like, what have I gotten myself into? This is the dumbest
You
thing I've
literally
ever done.
just threw up?
Oh, so much.
Wow.
I was so nervous. I was just like, well, by the way, all the money I had in savings went towards the cameras and the hard drives and the microphones. Like,
That
I
you
was
just
just
put on
all
a
in.
That
boat
most of them
across
were
the
That I
Pacific.
just gave to the boat, and I was like, Godspeed. So I just
Yeah.
was like, what have I done?
And none of the women were at all camera
Cinematographer?
people,
No,
like,
not at all.
Not social media
Natalia's a great
people.
photographer by nature, but it was such a huge risk. I just was like,
Yeah.
what have I done?
And Natalia ended up being the main, like, camera
Director of photography on the boat,
Yeah.
She was my liaison on the boat, certainly.
And she's the most, like, visually creative, like, the most, like, artistic in your classical sense. I think we can all agree.
Very spiritual.
Yeah.
She, like, understood the bigger picture, no pun intended, of what this was all for and why we were capturing it, so...
Yeah.
But by the end, they all
while
got
we
it.
speak to that, this is like coming up as one of the most incredible shots. There's no way that you
The
could ever
whales!
recreate this. In that
Totally.
Natalia gets
The best
the breach.
shot. Here we go.
And
She
then-
turns around.
how in the world she pulls this off is just ridiculous.
Cannot recreate this stuff.
Like what?
Wow.
You can't do that. You can't plan that.
That's amazing.
How many times
We
have,
did-
have any of us ever seen a whale jump out of the water?
Yeah, and then multiple times.
Let alone
and
have a
film it.
reaction and then flip it over and whale jumps out of the water. It's ridiculous.
And to have it that close. too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a GoPro, so it's a super wide lens, so it looks even further away from the camera than it was in person for them.
Yeah. And we added a little sound effect to the splash, not gonna lie. But just
you
to
know.
amplify what was already happening.
Yeah, you're only trying to communicate
Yeah.
what the real life felt
what they
like.
the microphones on the GoPro are not great.
Certainly not.
I loved all the night vision footage. So this is 1:30 in the morning, Laura and Emma. I love that they would film at all parts of the day. It wasn't just when things were happy and bright and sunshiny. It was, I kept encouraging them to
I was
film
gonna say,
the
yeah, you
entire
encouraged them.
process. Yeah, I was really wanted to see what life was like on the boat, but also the layers underneath what was happening. So why are you here? Who are you? What is this all about? And so this first leg, these first 16 days, really, the footage wasn't great, to be honest, and they'll be the first ones to admit it. A lot of this was out of focus, or they forgot to turn on the microphone, and so that was such a huge blessing as they eventually land in Santa Barbara, as we're going to see in a moment. That was such a huge blessing because they really needed a refresher course in how to use the cameras, how to use the focus, because the whole film hinges upon their footage at sea. So, but they did such a great job, and they really picked up the camera at all times like this.
Were they looking for somebody to follow this, like, in a documentary style when you first spoke to them?
I think they had tried to find someone loosely, but they had so much going on with preparation for the trip. They weren't like actively that serious about it. And I genuinely thought when I talked to them for the first time that they were going to be like, what GoPro should we buy? Like, I just had no idea what I was getting myself into in that first Skype. And then I just thought, well, this is so extraordinary. How is no one telling this story? Here's how I would do it. And then we continued to talk over the 2 months, and they watched the Empowerment Project. And for them, that was sort of to seal the deal. My other film of like, oh, this person has like the right mission in mind. I wasn't going to exploit them or portray them in any kind of negative light. So, yeah, it was a process to get to know each other over Skype and then in person. And then, as you know, as the journey went on, we all just got so close.
Course,
and then it was just like a no-brainer that this was a match made in heaven.
So how collaborative were they with you in the very beginning, being that obviously filmmaking is not something they're comfortable with and they have so much they're taking on already? Were they like, sure, let us know? Or were they like, I don't know, well, kind of learn how?
They were pretty hesitant maybe at first because they did have so much other really important stuff to worry about. But I think once we get to Santa Barbara, as we'll see, and I could show them back the footage and say like, here's why focusing is important, or hey, you forgot to turn on the microphone here and now I've missed this moment.
Yeah.
So it was like the perfect kind of restart.
That's great.
Yeah, it was such a huge blessing to have that happen. It seemed like such a terrible thing at the time, and then it was like, this is meant to be.
Because for some people, I feel like you don't want to show them back the stuff because it discourages them. But for some people who are really like captains of
Good
their own
students,
lives, they really like to see it because they take more, they take control.
They see
put
the
those
purpose.
into action. Yeah. And I feel like obviously taking on a mission like this, all of these women are the type who are like,
let's do it. If
ready
we're gonna do it, do it.
Yeah, to dive in.
And plus, I had some footage from San Francisco that I had cut together in those 16 days, so I could really show them even just like a tiny snapshot of what was being created, so they could see that I was taking it seriously, so they should take it seriously, and like this is really going to be something. I don't even remember what that looked like, but I had cut together their Skype interviews too. Fun fact, I had interviewed all 4 of them on Skype and recorded it and interviewed them at length. And Natalia in the Skype interview says the last line of the movie, and she never said it quite the same in good interview, like with a camera and a good microphone again. So I ended up using the audio from the Skype as the last line of the movie.
I remember you interviewing her a couple of times. I think in Hawaii and Samoa, like trying to get that bite.
It's
and
never
it was just
as
like,
good.
It wasn't very good. It was fine. No, you did a great
It wasn't
job.
bad, but
No, it wasn't.
But
it
like,
wasn't. But
it was such a pure, the tone.
Right,
The
exactly.
tone. You can't recreate that sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is funny. We're looking at the water that's come into the bottom of the boat.
It took me 15 times watching this movie to understand what Emma said. The MPPT box.
Yes.
And like, I still
okay
don't know.
if you don't
I still don't know
understand.
what that is.
With
but,
her British accent.
But it was a MPPT box. The what? Okay.
Okay, so this shot right here, the water, that's actually a shot of someone's basement that we pulled off of YouTube to help exemplify
No way.
what had happened.
Somebody's
Yeah.
flooded basement.
Shout out to
know that.
Pete. Yeah, because we didn't have a good shot of the water in
Of
the
course,
bottom of
because
the
they
boat.
were dealing with
'cause
the
we had-
water
and
and
they,
not filming it.
right, and so we needed to show the effect of it, and so
Wow.
if you don't like hearing about movie magic and peeking behind the curtain, I suggest you stop listening now, because that's what this is. Because the behind-the-scenes look at Losing Sight of Shore.
How were their attitudes when you saw them in Santa Barbara? Like
They were
after they had to
sad.
turn around?
Yeah, they were sad, but I think they were in Santa Barbara about 5-7 days, I believe.
Because of tides.
So the reason they had to come back in was because the boat had this malfunction due to the MPPT box. There was also kind of like a small fire on the boat.
Wow.
And
But
also
the reason they stayed as long.
because they had to get the boat fixed.
Oh.
Yeah. And so it was like the perfect opportunity to reset. And also they really had to restart the journey at that point.
Yeah.
And they had further to go from Santa Barbara than they did from San Francisco, which I never would have guessed. Because it just seems like you've gone south, so
Right.
you're
Straight
you've made
line is
progress.
close.
We're not nautical
No.
people.
That's why this is so funny. It's like this whole journey was like, oh, is that how it works? Like, it's just, we never knew what was going on. And so, this section with Patricia, it's very emotional. Thankfully, Rashid and Yassine got to see Losing Sight of Shore in England when we did kind of a little tour with the film, and it was so wonderful. And Patricia's whole family came to see the film, which was so awesome and emotional. And I love that her story will, live on in this film, and this was such a huge motivator for them to take this journey on her behalf and raise money for breast cancer care and Walking with the Wounded.
Proof that Elmo is universal.
This baby's wearing a Elmo onesie.
So we sent her back to oncologists, and that's when they sort of found she had second dose.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for me when you first were telling me about this was understanding. The hardest thing to understand was why they would go on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people before the film was done had that question.
Yeah.
Like people who aren't thrill chasers, or they don't go and do things that really challenge themselves, who are like just getting by, are like, why would you go and do something like this?
Yeah.
And it really it wasn't until I went through the experience really, but seeing the film was a 2-hour version where you could really understand why somebody would do something like that. It's so hard to communicate in words.
Yeah.
The drive to, especially I think also with age. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and I was not thinking of that, you know, life gets a little bit more repetitive and a little bit more, you kind of feel like, have I lost my ability to do something magical the older you get? And that's the purpose a lot of this serves, is I can get through something and I can survive and I can expand my universe and the universe of those around me by proxy. Like,
and prove what we're capable of as humans.
Exactly.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a hard thing to like compute until
you
get
see it. Yeah, totally. Tony!
I love Tony.
Let's talk about Tony for a sec.
So this
Tony
actually,
Humphries.
this was my first time meeting them, because I didn't get to go to San Francisco, and I had started working at a brewery like
days before.
Like maybe the week before. And Sarah was like, I have to go to Santa Barbara and I have to go meet them as they come in. Like, do you want to go? And I was like, I have 3 days of work. Like, there's no way I can do it.
And she was like, I need you.
I was like, you gotta come.
Please.
Well, also, I just knew these people were gonna be so important in my life for like the indefinite future, and I knew it because I was gonna be talking about them nonstop, and I really wanted Ryan to meet them.
And I called Steven, who was my boss at the time, and I was just like, I'm sick.
And so he came with me, which was so helpful.
It was amazing, yeah.
Actually, you know what? You came on the way up because I went twice.
Right.
And
when
then when I
they
went
landed
again, when they were leaving, my brother was there, so my brother got to meet them too. It was just like everybody had to meet them, and my dad got to meet them. My mom has not met them yet, sadly, but
can't wait.
Yeah, it was like everyone in my life had to understand what was happening in my life too. Not even though I wasn't on the boat, it just felt like this is what's happening. My life is completely up in the air, depending on when they get to these places, and deal with it.
You're good at sharing like that too. Like, you really invite people constantly and openly into your life in ways like that, in ways that are almost confusing to hear when you're used to like 21st century life, where people don't just invite you into their life in all these moments. Like, you start to take it for granted and be like, what? Why do you want me there? What are you talking about? You probably don't care if I'm not there. But you really think about it, like, no, she's inviting you because she's wanting to invite you into her life. That's another one of those things you learn more as you get older. But it's so true, and you're so good at that.
But Sarah always sees the bigger picture.
Exactly, that's
and
true
it's not
also.
just in the film, you know, because it's something like this where you're like, okay, 4 women are getting on a boat, and like we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But she sees beyond that, and that's something that has always made her films very special. And then I've watched all of your films now, you know, at least a dozen or more times.
I was going to say, you better watch all of them.
Well, I definitely watched all.
The sentence wasn't over.
I know. I even watched some of the student films. Those were.
Oh, now that.
Of course you have.
Yeah, we'll do that podcast next. But it's something that she sees the final thing before it's ever there.
Yeah.
And no one else does.
Yeah.
And even these women, even if they assumed that they were going to make it all the way to Australia from the beginning, there's no way that they could see what this would become.
Mm-hmm. And a good director just holds on to that vision.
Yeah.
You have to be the
and then it changes.
Anchor.
Yeah,
and be able to shift when it does, but still hold on to it, because everyone's looking at you to be that pole of strength.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to value that hugely.
So here we're foreshadowing. We're talking about Emma and how she's steady. She loves rowing. So we're really trying to plant the seeds for what inevitably happens. And for those of you who have seen the film, you know what happens with Emma. If you haven't, I won't spoil it. But we're really, our function here is to set the tone that Emma is who we can rely on. Emma's our rower. Emma, couldn't live without rowing. Mm-hmm. So that when things change, you've heard that. So this is everything is very intentional. What the information we reveal. And she celebrated her 30th birthday on the boat. That's so cool. 30 or 31st. So this shot's from Australia, but it's serving as a really nice transitional moment. We had an embarrassment of riches of shots of sunsets and sunrises and wildlife. It was just so visual. I should go back and look at other sunset shots and just marvel at all that was on the cutting room floor for this film. It's just the most visual film I'll probably ever make. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And most of those nice shots are from shooting from a drone, right?
No, they had tons of great. Yeah.
The big sweeping ones.
The sweeping ones,
of course.
are all
the ones
drone.
that are from far higher than an arm can reach.
And those are not mine.
We're from a drone.
Totally. And people often ask, one of the viewers asked how the drone footage worked, and we'll certainly talk about that more as we get to Ryan's amazing drone footage. But they did, to be clear, they did not have a drone on the boat at all. That would have been crazy if we also were like, here's a drone and you have to fly it. Learn how to fly it, don't crash it. There's no way to give you a new one.
2015, like drones were different then.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
So you're all just learning how to row a boat. Also, would you learn how to fly?
Now you are certified drone pilots.
Camera people.
Don't let it touch the water.
Yeah, you better not.
And turn on the damn
we
audio.
would have had to give them 5 drones. Well, the drone doesn't have audio. Well, that for
no,
these
I know,
cameras,
but
not in 2015.
That's true. Yes, so there was no drone on the boat. All of the drone footage that you see throughout the film was boat to boat or from land to their boat. So all of the drone footage, this is crushing a little bit of our movie magic, was within, 12 hours of shore. So when you see a drone shot in the film, when they're in the middle of nowhere, it's actually from much closer to shore, and we weaved those in to show the scope. Because originally, when I was thinking about how to make this film, I thought, well, we don't want the drone footage unless they're actually close to land, because we want the audience to feel really contained and claustrophobic like they are. And, in this expansive ocean, they only were in this tiny boat. And when we tried to cut it together that way, it was so suffocating to watch. I feel like people would have gotten seasick.
Yeah.
So you really needed to see the drone footage to understand the scale of this tiny pink boat in this massive ocean. So we ended up peppering through all the drone footage and boat-to-boat footage throughout the whole film.
To be fair, though, a 6 to 10 hours away from shore by motorboat is sometimes more than a day and a half by a rowboat.
Yeah,
totally. You're right.
It's out in the middle of the ocean. We drove for a long time.
We boat drove.
We boat
drove.
We boated. Listen to us.
There's gotta be
we
a
know
word
nothing.
for it. Somebody's shouting at their headphones right now.
So yeah, this is where we're learning about Izzy not continuing on with the journey past the first leg. So again, I knew this information going into the journey, which I thought was going to be very stressful and dramatic, and turned out to be such a blessing to have these new voices, new personalities come into the picture. I think if the same 4 women had rowed the entire way, they would have stopped talking to each other by like month 2. I think they would have told each other all their stories. They would have hated each other. Who knows? So I like this part because we are learning that Izzy's leaving. We're learning how dangerous this is and how much they've given up to take this journey. So Izzy leaving really shows us how dedicated they all are to what they're doing. So this was a really, really hard decision for Izzy, which, I totally respect her and her family. And by the way, she rode from San Francisco to Hawaii, and not many people can say that.
Oh, serious, yeah.
So yeah, in editing, it was like, how do we reveal this information? Oh, this shot, the drone is circling around the boat. We actually erased the yacht that we were on, and yacht makes it sound like it was super fancy.
The champagne was great.
The champagne was great. But that when we did a full 360 around the boat, the way we did that is we edited out the yacht that we were on. So Peter, our wonderful editor, just kind of erased our yacht.
Dang.
Yes, that's how you get a 360 drone shot of a rowboat in the middle of the ocean. Again, if you don't want the movie magic, this is what it is.
This is for you.
This is how you make it. So this is them using the confessional cam, as we'll call it, which is the Sony FDR AX100, a great consumer camera that we're using right now to film this podcast. That camera was what they used out on deck when it wasn't really splashy and rainy. That was like our confessional cam with a good microphone that Laura's using right now. So anytime they're talking to camera and you can hear them, it's the it's the confessional cam, the Sony. All the other cameras were GoPros.
Even at the age of 12.
Do we still not know what netball is?
No, I don't know.
Laura played netball as a child. It sounds like soccer.
I think it's like hand soccer.
Okay. Laura's probably laughing at us right
don't
now
have a
thinking,
guess at
why
all.
don't you know what netball is, you silly American?
I don't know. I could Google it, but
What's Laura's impression of us was...
it's Alana.
It's Alana.
It's me?
Laura would be like...
Oh my god, you guys, it's amazing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Especially at that year, I used amazing quite a bit.
Whatever. They would make fun of our American accents.
Laura and I spent a lot of time doing bad accents of each other's at each other.
Yes.
That was fun.
We bonded over that. So this shot underneath the boat says day 57. We're seeing underneath Doris. This is again boat to boat.
That was me.
So that was our GoPro dipped under the water from our boat when we were visiting them offshore close to Australia. So it makes it seem like they have a very long arm or some kind of accessory
Or
to get that
somebody's out
shot,
there
but that's
swimming.
us. Yeah. I love this shot of this massive boat. Again, it's showing the scale of them to anything was really exciting to be able to see a massive boat next to this tiny one. We love this. Okay, Emma's expression on her face in
This is the best
3,
part.
2, 1. You'll feel it. It's so subtle, but so good. That was like a mansplaining moment before we had that term. So good. Emma's like, yeah, all right.
That is.
You'll feel it.
That is the
You'll
meme
feel
for it.
Hashtag you'll feel it. Yeah. So this is our tropical storm. I'd say if I have any regret of any kind, it's that we weren't able to really show the scale of the storms and the waves that they face. That was one really huge struggle of the cameras that we had on the boat. There's really no way to be on the boat and yet also see the 4-story waves that they're describing. So that was hard. You know, I thought about doing like computer animation or something, not that I had the budget for that, but how do you show the waves that are hitting the boat? How do you show how much they're struggling in this tropical storm without that footage? And so for us, it was sound design. So being able to bring in more of the sound of the waves crashing against the boat, the raindrops, that's how we could try to achieve this storm, which is very real. We're not manufacturing this, but it's hard. It's really hard to show a storm when you're on the boat itself.
I think scale is a really good point when you're mentioning scale. Like, it's from the perspective of the boat, it's really hard for us to get scale of what that looks like.
Yes, all I wanted was a drone shot as if a drone could fly, you know,
in that
weather, like, you know, 20 feet back to see the boat struggling and going away. So this shot here is from much later in the journey, but it was the only way to kind of, again, show the scale. So that was a big challenge in editing, is telling these stories without the footage always. Land ahoy!
So now they're about to land in Hawaii.
Yes.
That's where I'm from.
Where Alana comes in.
And that champagne is like 85 degrees warm. there's nothing chilled on that boat.
Do you think there's any carbonation left?
Oh, there's absolutely carbonation.
Okay.
It's probably twice as carbonated because it's hot, but it's
Beer
85 degrees.
Alcohol expert chimes in.
This is when I first got involved in the making. I obviously, as a friend of Sarah's, I knew about the project, but this is when she was like, "Okay, I need help. Will you come?
I'm like, you're from Hawaii. You have to be there. This is your hood."
And it was one of the most humid weeks I've ever experienced in Hawaii.
So hot.
It was like any time of year. I don't remember it ever being that humid growing up. It was crazy.
Who was the drone guy in Hawaii?
Sam Kapoy did such a great
Kapoy, that's
job. And
He
Anka Malatinska as well. She was there to help us film. She was a mom, but she had her baby on her back filming a lot of the time.
Cute.
Sam was the guy that, like, we were like, oh my god, he did such a good job
He did such
that
an
we should
amazing
bring
job.
him to Samoa. And
Yeah,
we're just like, we
this
can't
is-
afford that. So
no.
Sarah's like, you're going to learn how to fly a drone. I was like, okay, great.
Yes. That Sam shot,
shot.
showing back so beautiful. And those lights on the dock, that's credit to my dad, Harvey Moshman, who was like, how are you going to light this? There's no light on this dock. What happens if they come in at night? And sure enough, they did. And my dad had run over to Home Depot and gotten those lights and set them up.
And then he returned
expert
them.
producer. And then he returned them.
And your
that's
dad
a good
is a
budget.
producer.
Yeah, my dad is a doc filmmaker and
Like
producer and
gazillion Emmy Award winning.
Yeah, and I was like, Dad, I need your help. I just enlisted the help of absolutely everyone in my life because I couldn't do this alone, and this was such a massive undertaking on such a shoestring budget, and so I'm so grateful that everyone just was like, this is too good to pass up, let's go, let's see the world, let's tell this story.
It's nice that the locations were like exotic and cool enough.
Yes.
It wasn't like, let's go to Iceland real quick.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's still be cool.
yeah, Iceland would be cool.
I thought you were going to say Iowa.
I'm thinking of like the middle of like snow.
Antarctica,
and
yeah.
ice. Just because for someone to volunteer to do that, they then need a snowsuit, they then need snow. Like, it's a little bit harder to be like, sure, I'll hop on a plane and do it.
Right, totally. Now we enter Lausanne. Lizanne! We love Lizanne! I love her so much!
The
It was
best.
so fun to spend time with her, to get to know her in Hawaii before they left. Just being with someone who's about to risk their life and do something so crazy is really a cool energy. They're like, did you know what you're signing up for? And she did. So yeah, this film
What
really...
up, Meg? In the back there.
I think I bonded most with Meg and Lizanne.
Yeah.
They were also the youngest, closest to my age,
Well,
and
also-
we had extra time with both
Yeah,
of
we
them.
got to
That's
spend
true.
time with them on land before
Yeah.
the girls rode in.
Sarah spent
Yeah.
time via like Skype and
Skype,
phone with all of
yeah.
them plenty, but
Totally,
we were
but
more
also
just there.
they had less, perhaps, responsibility, less to worry about. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Laura just had the weight of the world on her shoulders
That's
at all
true.
times, and we absolutely love all of them. But yeah, it was really, really nice to spend time with them, and we were definitely sad to see Izzy go. But this film really lended itself to like kind of a 3-act structure. Like, okay, it was pretty simple to put together only in the sense of structure of like they're either gonna make it or they're not. And here are the 3 stages, so 3 acts. And we've got Izzy in Act 1, San Francisco to Hawaii, Lizanne in Act 2, Hawaii to Samoa, and then Meg in Act 3, Samoa to Australia. So although it was really a lot of work to edit this film together, it was also kind of like, well, there's only so many ways this could go. So that was... Pete and I had so much fun editing this because once they had, spoiler alert, once they had made it all the way to Australia, it was like such a celebration to edit. It was like, we've got the footage, the story's there, it's safe, the footage is safe, and let's put it together now. So it was just like so much fun to edit this film.
That's another important thing I want to point out that Sarah's really good at in filmmaking is she starts editing like you just heard her say she's edited the Skype videos before any action started. She starts editing like the minute she has anything and starts putting things together, and it always comes in so handy. First of all, I think it really helps your creative process that you start seeing potentials and like, so now you know this is a yes, this is a no on what you want to do moving forward. Like subtly it helps you start to carve. But I think also whenever people start getting involved or will potentially get involved or you want to reach out to them or they're still fundraising, you have so much content that someone can say, well, let me see more. And you're like, great, I have so many things to show you from every point in the process.
I appreciate that. It's always mostly funding driven, but you're right. It's like the creative exercise is just as important.
And it's so
as
important because
fundraising.
so many filmmakers, like my gut instinct is to wait until I have the full idea of what the story is and then see how I want to carve it together. But that's why I procrastinate forever. Like it really causes a lot of
it
problems.
takes years.
And I think it's such a great thing to point out that like doing it that way, even if it's counterintuitive for you, can be so helpful.
Yeah, just to see what you're working with and to show the Coxless crew, like, here's what I'm creating.
Right. I mean, it's
That was
endlessly helpful. It motivated the people in the film, everything.
It's important to note they never caught one fish on this journey, so they're about to... They're fishing right now, Laura and Lizanne. They did not catch one fish, you guys.
Except for the fishes that jumped
8,000 miles. Yes, yes.
Laura does not believe. This is like one of my favorite scenes because Laura's just like, yep.
Sure.
Knock yourself out.
Sure, we'll gut a fish.
Yeah.
But even Lizanne's like, am I really saying these words?
Because I think that's how you do it.
Laura's like,
I feel pride here because I've been very like jankily fishing with a friend before, and I've like seen him slap the fish down, kill it, and I've gutted a fish before.
whoa.
Hi, I'm from Hawaii.
Did you eat it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I mean, someone ate it.
I'm from Chicago and I've done that.
You can still go on boats.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think
they
if
still
I-
invite me on boats.
If I was in Chicago, I don't think I would have done that.
No.
That's the only reason it crossed my path is because of Hawaii.
A lot of dancing. Oh, here comes Lipstick Saturdays. I just loved including this. Like, it's such a small moment, but I love that they maintained their femininity on the boat. Like, it just was... I didn't want it to be this, like, it's a pink boat, it's a feminist film, like, just, it's all about women, women, women. I wanted it to be more like they happen to be women, that they're doing this incredible thing, and they're women, and their boat is pink. But I love that the lipstick was just such a nice, like, and they still want to feel confident and pretty, and, like, wear lipstick sometimes.
And have some,
and
like,
that's
reminders
awesome.
of home. And
Yes, and they're not putting on makeup in any other regard, so I just thought that was so cute and cool.
Well, there was always the online haters that'd be like, well, men could do it faster. It's like, yeah, but they didn't.
You're like, go ahead and try.
So, so they haven't. So, you know, when they do, great. But
Awesome. Yeah, I do like that this journey was never about like the speed. They weren't racing anybody but themselves. It was just about achieving it and completing it. That to me is much more compelling than like these races that happen.
Yeah.
This anytime
Dolphins.
Sarah was watching footage,
Yes.
she'd go, and I'd come running in the room. I was like, is it a shark? She goes, no, it's dolphins. I was like, okay, that's cool. Let me know when it's a shark.
So we should talk about the way that worked. So every time we got to land, so Hawaii, Santa Barbara too, but really Hawaii and Samoa, they would give me the hard drives that they had collected all the footage onto, and I would just pray. Not a religious person really, but I would pray that there was anything on those hard drives, because it easily could have been erased or some kind of damage to it or gotten wet. So we had 2 copies of the footage on the boat. So I would take those hard drives, look at them on the computer, and I would just have a huge sigh of relief that all the footage was safely copied onto both hard drives and usable and lovely and wonderful and compelling. And so when I would get home from being on land, like after Hawaii and after Samoa, I would go through and log every single clip of footage.
Wow.
I would watch every single one. I would transcribe everything that they were saying. I would bold my favorite moments. I still have it. These like Google Docs full of what they were saying, what they were doing. So sort of like logging the footage, getting ready to cut it together. And every time there was a shark or any kind of interesting wildlife, I'd be like, Ryan! And I was just so excited. It's like, you know, unwrapping a present every day. I'm just like, what is this film and what is the footage they captured? I had this front row seat to this extraordinary journey that no one else really had.
Did any of the hard drives ever not make it?
Thank goodness. No, they all did.
Wow.
They all did. I mean,
What
sometimes
brand
there
were
was
they?
it was Lacey's. I love my Lacey Ruggeds because they can be dropped and they can get a little wet. Sometimes there's a discrepancy between the 2 hard drives. Like one had more clips than the other, so sometimes I'd have to figure that out. But thank goodness. And I would make a 3rd copy immediately. Like as soon as I got home, I would make another copy.
Smart.
So this is when they're in the doldrums and they would sometimes exert themselves like 50 miles in a day and end up rowing 10 miles in the wrong direction.
Oh, God.
So when we were reading their blogs, because they would blog every day on their website.
That's another thing to talk about, their blogs.
Yeah. So there was 257 days at sea and 257 blogs. They would take turns, all 4 of them. They'd write a blog in the Notes app on their iPad, and then when they had a little bit of internet every day on the Iridium Go, they would upload their blog to their website person, and they would upload the blog to the website. So all of us at home could follow along with what they were going through emotionally, and then we could see on the GPS tracker how far they had gone. And sometimes, like this section of the film, it was so heartbreaking to know that they were pushing themselves so hard and yet going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I think in this stretch there was a really cool fact that somebody pointed out. It might have been Tony, and he said that the girls were closer to the International Space Station than they were to anybody on land.
On Earth?
On Earth,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
That's how in the
insane.
middle of nowhere they were, between Hawaii and Samoa.
And how little there actually is out there.
That's actually quite terrifying.
Yeah,
so
right?
crazy. It's like, is the International Space Station much closer than we think? And also, wow, that they...
It puts into perspective
What would have
how much
happened.
water there is.
Yes, and what would have happened if one of them was hurt? How long would it have taken for the Coast Guard to reach them? You know, that was a constant. I mean, I know nothing about that, and Tony would have been the person to facilitate any kind of rescue, but that would have taken time, you know? So if one of them was seriously hurt or the boat capsized, it's not easy. And a helicopter, I don't even know if they can fly that long over open water without a place to land.
I doubt it.
Yeah. So this is where the drama is really beginning.
I feel like
building.
everything emotionally matched everything literally as it does in life. And this is also when they were kind of getting their most exhausted and like over it and
Totally.
stuck in their own psyches trying to get motivation to keep moving forward and struggling to find it.
Ugh, I just can't even imagine. And their hands. People often ask why they didn't wear gloves. They did. They tried to do all those things, but it always ended up in these blisters.
The salt water in the gloves would just, oh, there's a shark. Yes.
Fernando!
And then I freaked out and I was like, oh my god, can we just only watch this?
He just wants sharks on loop.
I just wanted
Sharks would follow Doris for weeks at a time. Natalia really took to them and would name them. Fernando, Eduardo, and so they wouldn't be able to swim for a certain amount of time when a shark would be following the boat. But they came to befriend their sharks, which is so funny. So what's great about what we just saw, if you're following along, is the camera they're shooting on shoots in 4K, which is a really great, so many more pixels to use. So in moments like that where Natalia and Laura are having a conversation between the two of them, because the image quality is so good, we could punch in to a cutaway of Laura. So these women are not filmmakers, such that if you're a filmmaker, you know how important cutaways are, so you can edit together a scene and compress it. When you don't have that, you have to be able to punch in and create your own. And so thankfully with the 4K, Natalia's filming her and Laura, and so we would punch into just Laura.
Gosh, that
And here's the whale! Oh my god.
Shout out to Pete for doing the whale sounds.
Huge whale. We wondered if the whale thought Doris was like a mate.
Probably thought Doris was a baby.
It's true.
Some lost baby.
So true. More whales. So here we are learning about Natalia. So this is quite late in the film to be learning about Natalia, I thought at first, but it was really nice to continue to peel back the layers of the onion of these incredible women. And so we tried to place this section of learning about Natalia earlier, and it just felt so heavy on the front. And so we liked that Natalia's been this very positive, spiritual, lovely force, and now we're learning why. You know, we're learning more about her mantras.
I like the pacing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that.
You're most developing and growth when you're outside your comfort zone.
Natalia has a very special soul. She's so amazing. I love how her parents say in the beginning, like, I don't really care about her getting married or having kids. You know, she's 40 years old. I think that, to me, is so awesome, and to some very radical that they don't want that for their daughter, and that's just not who she is. She is in a very serious relationship now, and who knows if she'll have kids or not, but I just love that going into this journey, her parents were like, it's not essential to her well-being.
I'm doing this role is to test the strength of my human spirit.
Something you'll find, I mean, in the beginning, very beginning of us recording this, you were like, oh, there's this person, we love them, or there's these people, we love them. Unique to other film projects, as we've all worked on other projects, like everyone involved in this film was incredible.
Totally.
Every single person was like a life-changing person to meet and experience and to be with and to just fill your heart full. It was almost overwhelming. Every single person, you're like, can we meet another?
And everyone was so humble and
wow,
like, modest, and we were just in this such cool bubble, like making this film, and I just felt so grateful.
I felt so good about the world when we were making this.
And that anything is possible. I mean, I had such a hard time fundraising for this film, you know, getting the resources to be able to go to these places and film everything, and yet I never felt like I could really complain because they were out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean rowing 24 hours a day, 2 hours on, 2 hours off for 9 months.
Never missed a shift.
Never missed a shift
Not
once. They, had to
2
batten
hours.
down the hatches. Yeah. So I just felt like, well, if they're out there and they can do that, then what can I do? And that's really stayed with me. And I think stayed with so many of our viewers of like, if they can do that, then what does my life look like, without limits?
Yeah.
And we never wanted people to watch the film and be like, oh, I could never row the ocean, they're amazing, and sort of put them on a pedestal, which they deserve, but more like, how do you take this inspiration into your own life, and what does crossing a Pacific look like for you, rather than, oh, they're so amazing, I'm so lazy, my life's nothing compared to theirs. Like, that's the opposite of what we wanted people to feel.
Yeah.
Well, they never made us feel like they had done something amazing. They always made it seem like, oh yeah, I mean, we're just out on the ocean for 90 days. Like,
and to be
no
frank,
big deal.
being out on the ocean for 90 days, if you've got that kind of ego, it's going to get knocked out of you really quick.
That's so true. Yeah, there's so little glory.
Fortunately, they didn't start with those egos, and but they had a lot of psychological training as
They
well
did,
to make sure that they could do this.
They had a sports psychologist named Keith, and
who's
worked,
incredible.
Oh my gosh, he worked extensively with them in person over the phone so that they could be mentally prepared for the journey, which I think made the difference. That if they had a problem, they would be very blunt with each other and bring it up. They had these different
communication strategies.
Yes, and it was like colors. So they'd say like, we're going to bring out like the red flag and the blue something like flags, or it was very color based. So now we're going to talk about the pure emotion of this. Now we're going to talk about the logistics of this. Like every time they had to make a decision, they would divide it up into these different sections. It was just very healthy, incredible, smart,
super healthy
communication skills that all of us can benefit from.
Yeah, all I could think was like, Keith, when are you going to publish
a
book? Like when are you going to do a one-on-one session with me and teach me all your ways? Like, please, something. This is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, although they were not professional athletes or rowers, and even some of them had never rowed before, they had trained extensively mentally and physically to take the journey. And I think the mental part was the saving grace, you know, in these moments of doubt or wanting to go home or feel suffocated or claustrophobic. They had some really incredible tools from their psychologist to get through it. That most of us would just be like 2 hours in, like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Even
Especially
now,
today, I feel like it's only been a few years, but it's with all the huge shifts that have happened, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot harder for people to do that. The idea of people doing this right now sounds insane, and the idea of people doing this in 2015 sounds crazy.
Yes.
Like, it's just a little bit higher now.
It's been like 4 years, like 4.5 years since this journey took place.
Yeah.
The film came out May 1st, 2017 on Netflix in 190 countries, and it's March of 2020 now. So if you're listening to this before May 1st of 2020, please watch it on Netflix, because it's probably not going to be there much longer, sadly. But it has been amazing.
You can buy a DVD.
Yeah, you can buy a DVD. It's on iTunes. It's on Amazon. So the film will live on, but it has been so amazing to share this story with people all over the world. So the feedback that you all give on social media is just warms our hearts. It's so incredible. People say they watch it 5 times, 20 times. I mean, just really, I never thought it could be so far-reaching, and their story deserves to be told forever. It's such a timeless, incredible journey that they took.
Yeah, I feel like this type of story is what we need more of right now.
Yeah, totally.
Obviously, I just mentioned how we're lacking it.
Yes,
So
no, the world needs more
of.
connection. I mean, right now we're in the midst of this social distancing. I mean, it's like technology takes us so far away from each other. I love that about this story too. It's like they're just in it with each other. Like, there's no way out. And there's not a lot of situations in our lives, unless you're in a prison of some kind, where you're stuck with people and you have to figure it out together and like overcome a challenge this immense. It's really such a great lesson. And they're not, you know, hanging out on social media all day. You know, like they're the most present you can possibly be on this journey. They're just literally hour by hour, shift by shift. And I always love the fun fact that this film is like 92 minutes long. It's not even the length of one shift on the boat. So you're seeing the entire journey from San Francisco all the way to Australia within 92 minutes, and that doesn't even fill one shift on the boat. Shout out to the Red Bucket. They would have to find
something else to do on the boat after having watched the movie.
Shout out to the Red Bucket. People always want to know where they went to the bathroom.
Let's engage with that question.
Bucket and chuck it was the philosophy. So they have a red bucket that you'll see sometimes on deck, and that was it. They had some toilet paper, and then they would just throw it over the side. So they're going to the bathroom in front of each other.
Oh, and, yes.
Women often want to know, did they get their periods? And they all got some implants in their arms to stop their periods from happening for these 9 months, like birth control implants, which I think worked pretty well.
Yeah.
So a lot of women are just like, I need the facts. I need to understand how this worked.
Wait, logistically, how in the world did that work?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's possible.
And how did they bathe?
They created their own water on the boat with a desalinator, and then they would use that water to wash their hair, to wipe down every day. So they were hygiene was really important, so they didn't get salt sores, or you're already so uncomfortable sitting in the same seat rowing.
Just being sweaty and salt water. It's just all
or
that stuff.
Freezing in salt water.
Yeah, that's true.
All of it. This is such a heartbreaking part of the film where Lizanne is finding out about her family member who's passed away
while she's on the boat.
I think that's just like your worst nightmare if you literally can't get home.
Yeah.
There's just no way. It oftentimes felt like they were astronauts. Like, it really kind of feels
really
like they're in space. Because they're that far away from getting home.
I wanted to mention that how the reason that we had more time with Lizanne and got to know her better was because it's hard to know exactly when the boat's going to dock in each location.
Mm-hmm.
So people who were going to meet the boat, like Lizanne was going to get on in Hawaii, they would fly out on a certain date, whatever parents were going to meet, and like a select group of parents would come for each one. Like there'd always be a collection of family members and friends and Tony and us.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of guess and be like, hope the boat doesn't come before.
Yes.
And hope it doesn't come too far after.
So stressful.
Very guessing at the dates, and I think for
And
this
buying
was,
a ticket, by the way. Buying flights like 2 days before is so
and
expensive.
for them, I mean, for us, Hawaii wasn't as far, but
Yeah.
for them,
For
Hawaii from
England?
England, that was a whole deal. And I think they always showed up a little late all 3 times, didn't they?
Except in Samoa, they were a little early. Remember, we
were
had
they?
just gotten there, and it was
You would remember,
Halloween.
because you bought the tickets.
But like, I would just go by whatever Tony said. He'd be like, "Here's the day that we should arrive," and I'm like, "Great." I would never question it. I'd be like, "Uh huh." Why would I? What do I know?
What else can you do?
So yeah, no. In Hawaii, I think we were a little early.
Yeah. And
So
that's why
spent
we
more
ended up
time with
having
Lizanne.
more days.
And then they stayed longer than they said they would. Also,
really?
And then Ryan had to go back.
I think I did too.
Yeah,
early.
you had to leave too. Yeah, so I think I was there the longest, and I was frustrated because you're like, well, now I have to pay for more of my hotel. Like it just was like everything meant more cost. But such is life. Also, I love that you're wearing this bracelet.
I love the bracelet.
I totally
that's
forgot.
This
We got
is
those
from
in Samoa.
Yes. Sarah got it for me.
So beautiful.
It's a gift.
I love it. I have one.
It makes it more special. If
Yes,
it's a gift. So I have
it
to
is.
say.
Oh, and this was nuts. They started really pulling some miles all of a sudden, and
like slightly
then,
off.
And then the current was like, "Oh, you guys want to go to Fiji?"
And not Samoa.
And not Samoa, and they were running out of food, and they were all freaking out about that, and they didn't want to eat the beef curry anymore.
And they'd been on the boat so much longer than they thought they would.
Yeah.
And I
Everyone
remember
agreed beef curry was the worst
The
taste of all the terrible foods they had.
the
Right? Wasn't that
expedition
right?
food, and
Which
then
I think is what Emma makes in the first scene with
shepherd's
with
pie,
Izzy.
beef shepherd's
Oh,
pie.
shepherd's pie.
Close.
Okay. Yeah, they
It's
ate all the shepherd's
dehydrated
pie.
like astronaut food,
Yes.
and they're rehydrating it. And there was
they're
a pretty.
putting their own water into it that they make through the desalinator.
Everyone was
Yeah.
agreeing that the beef
Beef
curry was the
curry
worst.
Was the worst.
Beef
And then
curry
they make
flavored oatmeal.
Meg try it in like 3, and she's like, "I think I'll love it." And then she's like, "Barf," and you'll see. That was the best. I just love any bit of comedy to infuse in this because it is a lot of drama and like laughter and fun, but you wanna.
And the truth
mix it
is,
up.
they're so
That's life.
lighthearted
Yes,
in general.
they're very
like,
happy people.
They have to be to able to have gotten through this and to not have any major fights. There was
Yeah.
one fight of significance that was written about on the blog.
Yes,
over
where
the
they fought
noodles.
over noodles. Yes,
That we parodied
that we did.
Oh,
in,
yes.
a gift to them. I don't know if we're
In
gonna
a
watch
video
that.
gift to them.
I don't know if we're gonna
I mean,
watch
I
that,
would.
but that was a lot of fun.
It'd be okay to put it somewhere on the internet.
Yes.
But they are such like, for what they're going through, they're such lighthearted and great people. I just think everything, their mindset says everything.
Yeah.
The reason they
totally.
got through it, the reason it was a good experience,
The reason it
for
was
them and for
successful,
us, the reason
yeah.
it was successful is all due to their incredible mindset that I can't get enough of.
Yes. So this is the scene where Emma is telling us she has nothing left to give on the boat. And I have to say, as a filmmaker, when I saw this, after watching the footage in Samoa, I was like, we have a movie. Because this showed me, this is sort of like an emotional climax for Emma. Emma's supposed to be our rock, right? She's supposed to be our resident rower, and we can depend on her. And here she is saying she doesn't want to row again, and we're not done. We're coming on the end of the second leg, not the third. So
You're not even halfway as far as days, right?
Yeah. We're halfway.
Halfway,
for sure.
just kidding.
But I thought each one of them has to have a story arc, and each one's going to have a different story arc, and this was Emma's, and I thought this was so strong and so compelling, and anybody could identify with having a passion and losing passion for that thing that you've been defined by your whole life. In fact, I thought about Ryan a lot. Ryan grew up loving baseball and wanted to be a professional baseball player, and then coming to terms with that not being his path. It's so painful when you lose that. And so to see Emma go through this, I just remember watching that. I remember Natalia giving me the hard drive and telling me about it in Samoa. And then I watched it and I was crying and I was like, okay, this is the movie. Like, I just got it. And so being able to plant those seeds for Emma in the beginning to now pay off here, and then the question of will she go on or won't she go on, I thought was so powerful.
And it was lucky too because Emma as a person was the most silent, like very to herself,
very introverted,
quiet.
which I'm an introvert too. I totally identify with that.
But to get her to do a full confessional talking about it, like, you don't know if she has a moment like that, if she'll just keep it to herself or maybe mention it to someone but not pick up a camera.
Yeah, so Natalia was very helpful in all those moments to be like, you should share, like, this is part of the journey, people are going to want to see that. So I'm so glad she did.
Yeah, because it really does help other people to know, you go through that as well.
The real story.
Yeah.
So this is us on the boat heading into Samoa with Meg.
What up, Meg?
Meg, who we got days with too.
Yes. Okay, so we should start to talk about Ryan's experience in this moment because he's on land trying to fly the drone. So Ryan, walk us through what's happening here.
So this is my
Ryan's
drone shot.
So good.
I was on a beach, a private beach, that I had to essentially bribe a local to get onto.
I don't remember
So
this.
Sarah and Alana are on the boat.
Sarah and Alana
beautiful
are on the
Samoan boat with Tony and Meg, and Ryan is on land.
I'm on land, and I was sitting in a hut, like in the beach, just waiting for the downpour to stop.
Oh, it was raining,
Yeah, it was
right?
raining.
And
the weather was crazy.
And I couldn't see out past the reef because the waves were hitting the reef so hard that the only thing that I could see a little bit of was the top of the sailboat. And so I kind of had to fly.
That we were on.
Yeah, and so I kind of had to fly the drone out that way to go find it. And I was like, okay.
To even see it, like on your screen.
To even see it on my screen, which was, really difficult because then the sun came out and it was so bright I couldn't see anything. And so I got to a point where I was out of range. I was a quarter mile out with the drone and I lost range. And so it sent it back and I was like, okay, great. I have to go catch them landing. And go get that on the drone.
Have to have that shot of them coming in.
And so I pack everything up and I'm sprinting, in 100 degrees and full humidity.
Oh, this Samoa was the hottest I've ever been in my life.
Hot. And let's remember that this is a one-shot deal, right? We can't recreate this.
Oh, no.
And also that Ryan is not a filmmaker and
I know,
not a cinematographer.
He's like, why aren't I just brewing beer?
I'm barely a drone
Let's
operator.
remember that Ryan is feeling the pressure because this is not his field.
Especially
and he wants to do
in
well.
Samoa. You had just started learning.
Yeah,
we had gone to the park every day in LA
I was
and
solid
tried to
on a
learn
soccer field.
The drone.
Around it was great. But so I get to the marina where they're gonna land, and I get some shots of them kind of coming in, and then what was it? It was customs took a long time to get down to let them off the boat. They couldn't actually step foot off the boat.
That's a non-fun fact.
It's super
that
fun.
They
They're
couldn't
just
even stand on the dock without customs clearing them first. That's something that we didn't want to include in the film, but it was a real part of this.
And so I'm flying the drone and I'm kind of hanging out above the marina, and all of a sudden I lose picture, and I was just like, uh-oh. I didn't have a spotter, so it was just me, and I couldn't really see it against the gray skies. I didn't really know where it was, and it started to beep, and it was like, hey, you have low battery. I was like, cool.
No.
I was like, cool, send home. Send to home. Would you send to home, please? Nothing happened. And so I just, I knew that I had about a 75% chance if I just shot it one way that it would land on land, and maybe I'd see it kind of going over.
Oh my God.
And
pressure. And we don't know any of this is going on. Alana and I are at the marina filming them,
having a good time,
celebrating. We have no clue.
That's the funniest part is everybody's celebrating at this point that they made it.
Yeah, there was a huge pig on a spit. There was remember there's a big barbecue for them, and I'm like, where is Ryan?
And so there's a couple of guys that were on the dock, and the guy goes, I think it went down over by those silos over there. And I was like, oh my God, great, thank you so much, I appreciate it. And so I pack up my stuff and I run to where I see the silos, and it's this giant shipping yard, with these massive containers and loaders and everything like that. And I had to ask the security guard at the front. I was like, hey, can I get in there? I had a flying helicopter camera. And he just doesn't speak English, and he just goes,
nope.
Whatever, go ahead. And I was like, oh great,
it's
oh my God.
Because Ryan is a charmer. He's truly sweet to the core, but he also knows how to communicate it and be a kind guy. It's why everybody
Good
in the
hand
filming
gestures.
of this was like obsessed with Ryan,
Oh,
which we
yeah.
can talk about after.
We will.
but
let's get
you're
to
such a great guy.
So well, thank you. I love you too. You guys are amazing. But yeah, so the drone, you know, or the silos were kind of off in the back, and so I got this guy to like let me put my stuff in his office, and I went into the back, and it was these like, you know, these 5 guys that were working in the back, and I was asking, hey, dude, you guys see a helicopter, camera, something? And the one guy just kind of like motions over to me and like he tells me to like follow him into this dilapidated building. And
I would have thought like this is where I die.
That's what I was thinking. I was just like, I mean, if I have to fight my way out of this, that's what's got to happen.
Oh my
All
God.
right.
This is love.
But so he like reaches behind this like bathroom stall and pulls out the drone, and I was just like, oh. You gotta be kidding me. I was like, this is amazing. Oh my God, thank you so much. And he just like holds the drone in one hand and he holds out his other hand. And
For money.
Sarah had given me like 10, what was it? I forget what their currency was.
10 Samoans.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just like, what I gave him was like $1.20.
Oh my God.
But it was like, you know, I gave him a 5. And I gave it to him and I was just like, I hope. And he goes, here you go.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
But
And
so Ryan comes back to the marina.
and they're all like partying.
Totally
and
like tail between his legs. Like,
I'm just
feeling like he had
defeated.
failed.
I busted up the drone.
Oh yeah, the drone was
The drone was
That's
busted.
important to mention. It was broken.
It was.
So he comes back to the marina, and I'm like, "Where have you been? What happened? Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And he shows me the camera. He's so upset. He's like in tears, and I'm just like, "Well, hold on. Let's see if the memory card works. I don't really care about the drone itself. I just care about the footage." And sure enough, we get back to the house, and we plug in the memory card, and you guys, it was all there, and it was beautiful, and we could even see the shot of where it crashed. So the drone totally crashed in the shipyard, and this guy found it, and anyway, it was totally fine. I mean, the footage is in the film, so I was like, it's all good. We'll get the drone fixed. Like, the drone's not the important part; it's the footage. And so Ryan saved the day.
And then on their way out, there was one guy on the island that had a drone.
Yes.
It was the same drone.
Oh yes.
And somehow we got him to let me fly it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was like zero production on the island of
Knowing
Samoa.
full
so
well that I had crashed the last one.
we have this
The day
broken
they were
drone.
leaving Samoa,
Yeah.
everything. So many things happened.
Yes.
Let's start.
So, so we had to hire this local guy, and then they told us that he couldn't fly it for insurance reasons.
And for drones, at least in 2015, I know there's legal stuff now. There are so many different legal issues about where you can fly it, when you can fly it, how you can fly it, how high you can fly it.
Nobody really knew what the rules were.
They were
so they were
new.
making them up.
Going to places like
Yeah.
Samoa, it wasn't really official.
So essentially, we paid this guy to let Ryan fly his drone,
Right.
because our drone had crashed, and we needed to get the drone footage of them leaving. There was no time to get it fixed, because again, we're on the island of Samoa. There's no Best Buy, so it's just crazy. And so Ryan flew the drone and saw them
Everything
leaving,
went
and it was
fine.
beautiful. And then also when they were coming into Samoa, I forgot to mention that Natalia called Tony on the satellite phone.
God, yeah.
And she's like in tears, and he's like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And she's like,
So many tears
I need
that
to talk
day."
to Sarah." And I was like, "What?" And I get on the phone, and we have footage of this too. I should find it. And she tells me that she's dropped this camera, over the side of the boat. And I was just like, okay, are you okay? Like, again, I have my head on straight, you guys. I'm not crazy. I need to get the footage that I need to tell the story, but like, I also want everyone to be safe and happy and fine. So I said, well, was there a lot of footage on the camera, like on the memory card? And she said about a week's worth of footage. So there is a week's worth of footage that we will never see because it is on the bottom of the ocean. But it's all good. We can still tell the story.
But Sarah, being the amazing producer that she was, just said like a week before we went to Samoa, she was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy another camera just in case something's wrong with the other one. To give to just in case I need it. Otherwise, I'll just return it.
Yeah.
And we show up and I dropped it.
I brought extra GoPros and this camera, which is very expensive. Believe me, I did not have the money to be buying a second camera. I wasn't like, I'll just pick up another camera. But I had a feeling and just wanted to be prepared, and there was no Best Buy. Like, I just had to be ready. And sure enough, Natalia dropped the camera. I love you, Natalia. It's all good. Water under the bridge. And it was actually, like, as a producer, kind of gives you some pride that you were prepared.
Yes.
So I felt like I solved this problem already. So I gave them a new camera and a microphone, like all of it. I had replenished for their final leg. So yeah, Samoa was nuts.
And the day they left Samoa, my flight was set for like the same time they were leaving.
Oh, yeah.
So I was filming like the hottest I've ever been in my life.
Oh my
just
God,
a reminder.
so
and
hot.
I am from Hawaii and I'm a tropical girl.
This was October. This was Halloween too.
Yeah.
Yes, it was right
This
around
was like
Halloween.
November.
It was like 100 million degrees.
Oh my God.
Plus the most humid anything ever has been.
Yes.
It was
And it was just
101% humidity.
Yes.
Full liquid
Sweat.
body, like you'll slip if you touch something because you're soaked through everything.
The lenses are getting
The
fogged
cameras
up.
were like
Yeah.
hard to even maneuver because of how hot it was. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna film up until the second I have to go. And literally a car pulled up that was like, hey, time to go. And I was like, here's the camera.
Oh my
They were
God.
in the boats, but they weren't like going yet. I'm sure they stepped back out again. And I left and I went to the airport and I went into the bathroom and tried to like paper towel pieces. Like that's a long flight to get
Yes,
home from
oh my
Samoa. I was
God.
like, I'll be
We had
fine.
to fly from LA to New Zealand and then back 4
Right.
hours to Samoa. Samoa is in the middle of nowhere. You can get some flights from Hawaii, which maybe you flew to Hawaii.
We
But
flew
on
there
the way
together.
there. Yeah, we went Air New Zealand all the way to New Zealand and
I don't know
then
how I got
back
back.
to Samoa. So it was such a long journey, and
Very
all the
long.
equipment making it on the plane was such a miracle. Every
Mm-hmm.
time the equipment showed up on the conveyor belt, we were like, "Oh my
Thank the
God!"
Lord.
Yeah,
Oh,
so just
and-
so much risk.
The other part of us bringing all that stuff to Samoa was, we carrying all this stuff into this tiny, tiny little airport. And like 5 days into our stay at Samoa, this guy stops me at an internet cafe, and he's like, "Hey, Ryan, how's it going, man?" And I was like,
What?
Ryan became the mayor of Samoa.
pretty quickly.
Ryan becomes the mayor of everywhere.
I was
He was like, "Do I
"Hey,
know you?"
man? How do I know?" He goes, "Oh, I checked you guys in at the airport." I was like, "What?"
my
he
And then
goes,
our waiter too.
and then as I'm talking to this guy about his like under 16 rugby team that he coaches, that he wanted like me to donate some money. I hope you guys do great. But as I'm
Amazing.
talking to this guy, the guy like across the street goes, "Yo, Ryan, what up?"
Oh
And I was
my
like, and it was our waiter from the night before.
Oh my God,
And
Samoa
that's-
is so cute.
And that's
Small
when I
town.
realized I was the only person with blue eyes that any of
Oh.
them had ever seen.
Absolutely.
And Samoa's like, before I had gone, I was not clear on this. There's American Samoa and there's Western Samoa, right? I'm labeling that correctly.
I think so.
Right, there's
There's
American
Samoa
Samoa
and
and
Samoa.
then there's Samoan
Yeah.
Samoa.
I think Western Samoa is what the not American side is called, but I might be mixing the Western part up.
Samoa.
Anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, is it? Anyway, they're like connected but kind of barely. So even when you see Samoa on a map, it's like smaller even than you'd imagine.
Yes.
And we were on the not American side,
We were
which is
in
also
Apia.
smaller and
Right.
Yeah.
less.
But you could make it to the whole other side of the island in like an hour.
There's
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
tourism.
It was like take
There
your
should be
vision
more.
of Samoa.
It's beautiful.
and let it
Highly
just
recommend.
shrink.
It's like Fiji,
It was
but way
so
cheaper.
incredible.
Yeah. It was beautiful, and even we stayed a couple extra nights, and we got to stay in the Fale on the beach, which was beautiful. Yeah.
That was one of the most incredible nights ever.
Just like hearing the ocean waves crash. It was awesome.
Beer and wine was like $1 for a beer. It
Listen,
was amazing.
I grew up half of the time in Thailand. I feel you.
That was. Oh,
It's incredible.
I'm all about the Chang. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so here we are in leg 3. It is Christmas Eve. So we're in between Samoa and Cairns, Australia. And they had to celebrate Christmas on the boat, which they were not expecting. Everyone thought they'd be back long before this. So they're very disappointed to have to spend Christmas on the boat.
And it was like just
Just
weather and
crazy.
stuff that made them
Yeah.
take longer.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii to Samoa took 97 days, and it was supposed to take 60 days. So the whole journey got pushed back.
The doldrums.
The doldrums, yes.
Oh, and Laura's talking to Auntie Mary.
Yes, who we
got me
then got
drunk
to
at
meet.
lunch.
Yeah, we got to meet Auntie Mary
Oh,
in our
man.
tour, and she took a liking to Ryan and gave her many.
Of course,
drinks.
again,
Yeah,
let's tally how many times anyone takes a liking
He's
to
a
Ryan.
good person to have around.
He really is.
Old Mickey Blue Eyes over there.
But when we did the tour in London of the film, we went to like all the girls' hometowns,
Yeah.
and we like showed the film. And Auntie Mary makes these amazing pasties, which like
Pasties.
she's famous for in town. Like
Oh,
everyone knows about
delicious.
Auntie Mary's pasties.
And that's the food that Laura missed the most on the boat, so we had to try it.
And so she's asking, does anybody want some cider? And we hadn't really told anybody that Sarah was pregnant at this point.
I
And so
knew
Sarah goes, oh yeah, some cider, that sounds
I was
great.
like,
And
yeah.
Laura and I look at each other and we're like,
No. And I was like, oh, never mind, I don't want any.
never mind, I don't. And so she,
I forgot forgot that.
I don't know what I want.
She had already like popped the bottle, and so I was sitting next to Auntie Mary, and I take a little sip, and I put it down, and she'd go, doop, and just like pour me some more every time I took a sip, and I was just, it's like 6.5%, 7%, and it's lunch.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I drank like most of a bottle of cider
to save Sarah.
That's right.
To save Bryce.
I didn't know. Yeah.
I was drinking for 3.
Amazing.
Bryce is their child, their daughter.
Can we talk about how cute it is that they got each other gifts for Christmas on the boat? I mean, that's
and their
such
Christmas antlers.
Lovely. And this bird that was hanging out with them. Just love that. That wildlife was such a big part of the journey. And just they really showed up for each other, like giving presents on Christmas. That's so sentimental, and just the fact that they had the foresight to get each other presents before they left is so sweet.
So coming into land in Australia, the parents were really excited and wanted to book their flights because they were moving quickly, and we were hesitant to book flights because we knew how fickle this journey had been and would continue to be. And so we booked our tickets to get to Australia, and they ended up taking so much longer than we had imagined. So it was like a full week, I think, from when we got to Australia to when they actually arrived, which was very stressful. Again, we're burning through budget here, being on this journey, and the longer that they were taking, the more money it's costing. So although it was fun to be in Australia and we got to like hold koalas and explore, it was also really stressful to not know when they were going to come in. So they're rowing.
And they
their
had a
hearts
bit of a
out.
window, didn't they? Like a weather window?
Yes. So that's really what ended up happening.
And they had a deadline on the back end because of
tides.
No, there was something. They had already like packed or booked the packing of their boat to go back to England,
which is really expensive. Yeah.
So
totally.
So they thought they gave themselves enough buffer, and it took them longer than their buffer was going to be.
Yeah. And they were running out of food, like every single thing, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They're running out of food. They were exhausted. Their families were waiting for them. We were there waiting for them. So the stress is starting to build here. And they're rowing their hearts out and not making the progress that they needed to make in order to get to land. And so what we really spell out here at the end of the film is they just needed to get from mainland America to mainland Australia in order to complete the record of rowing across the Pacific Ocean. So it didn't matter if they went all the way to the marina or if they were in any part of Australia. That was the record they were going to be setting. And so ultimately, we're on land with the parents and Tony and trying to figure this out. And we then have to present this information to them boat to boat by going out and meeting them on another boat and saying, hey, you don't have to row all the way into the marina. What if you row into this other part of Australian land, complete the record, and then we'll tow your boat into the marina. So it's not going to look like the ending that you thought, but it'll help achieve everyone's goals. And so they were very upset to learn this. And so, we got up at 2:30 in the morning to get
crazy
on this
and the whole time there were question marks. It was like, well, will they have to do that? Because if they do this much on this day, then maybe they could kind of, there were all these like maybe, and disappointment, not disappointment.
Everything was in motion all the time.
Yeah.
With that. But.
Or will they even make it back? At one point there was a conspiracy theory being like, do they even not want to come back? Maybe they're just taking their time. Maybe they just don't want to come back.
There was so much
just
internal drama.
All the parents were there, ready to receive them. They were going crazy, stir crazy. Like, where are they? When are they going to be here? Are they safe? What's happening to my baby?
Yeah, it was just so much stress. Exciting, but very stressful. And so we got on a boat, this yacht, to meet them out and just to see what was going on. And they were in such really bad spirits, honestly, when we saw them. I think two days or so before they actually make it into land, we had met them out at sea. That's where we got all the drone photography that we mentioned earlier. These beautiful drone shots of them out in the middle of the ocean, because we really were 12 hours offshore. But they were just really upset that this journey was not going to end the way they thought. Imagine you've been rowing 24 hours a day, 2 hours on, 2 hours off for 9 months. And you've had this moment in your head of how it's going to feel and what it's going to look like, and all the people there cheering for you, and suddenly they're finding out that it's not going to be that way. And so that was really heartbreaking for them. But I should say, when they saw Ryan's face,
everything changed.
So excited. They hadn't really seen a guy in
and they'd only been
2-3 months.
Mayor of the world.
They'd only been talking to Tony, and Tony's always giving them bad news.
Yeah.
And so they start telling me like, yeah, hey Tony, whatever, man.
And then Ryan walks out from the yacht, and they're like, "Hi, Ryan." They were so excited.
Their eyes like turned anime. They just got so big and happy.
cute.
So there's our yacht.
There's our
That's
yacht,
the one. That's our boy Tony.
That's Tony.
Love
So
Tony.
we're all on the yacht, and the plan was that they were going to row into this Aboriginal land, which, P.S., we were not supposed to be on by any stretch. No humans are really on this part of the
Without like
land.
explicit permission and everything like that. So
Yeah, so this was, it was called like Turtle Beach or something like that.
Weren't there some potential creatures that might be there that was scary?
Which
as
we
well?
did not
that
know about.
afterward.
Thank God we didn't know at the
not
time.
know. So they start rowing into land, and we're on the yacht, and we have this little dinghy boat that's gonna go from the yacht to land, because the yacht couldn't go all the way into that beach.
Because it's just a beach. It's just sand.
Just a beach. So the plan was that me and Ryan and Tony would get on this little boat with this woman named Meg, who was a owner of the boat, who was amazing.
It was a husband and wife.
Husband
So
and
the
wife.
husband would stay, and I stayed on the boat, the yacht with him, and the other
Thinking
three.
that-
thinking that
we
on
were
the
gonna
next
take
turnaround,
turns.
right? You'll
That
come
we
get
would
me.
go to land, then the boat would go back and get Alana and come back, and that never happened, sadly.
So as we get on the dinghy and we, it's got a little motor, and we, go into the beach, we get all the gear offloaded, and, I put the drone down, Sarah puts the camera down, getting the sound equipment and stuff like that. It's all getting set up. And as Tony and Meg are trying to turn the boat back around, the tide is coming in so much that the waves actually start crashing over the side of this boat. And Sarah goes, "Go help them right now." So I run out, and just taking waves off the side of my head, we're trying to turn this boat around, and it's just gaining water and it's gaining sand.
It was so dramatic.
And
oh my God, it was
the
so crazy.
boat
And the
sunk.
girls are coming in and getting
girls
close.
are coming
girls are
in,
getting closer.
and I'm
The-
standing there filming, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I was trying to frame out the dinghy boat and just have their boat, because this is such a huge moment.
that
I didn't
little-
want it to be part of the story, but it had to be part of the story, because it was just
Yeah,
what
that
was
little
going
boat
on.
sunk in 3 feet of water. Right
and in
on-
like 2 seconds.
in 2 seconds.
So fast.
And so we're trying to tip it and let the water go out so we can get it back afloat. You can see the boat right there that we're on.
That's the dinghy
pre-sunk
crash land.
Yes.
pre-sunkness.
and it had a motor, and then the motor didn't work.
Yeah, and we flooded the motor in that instance. So as we're doing that, the girls come in sight, and Sarah just goes, "Don't worry about it. Get on the drone." And so I'm just absolutely soaked. I've just been beat with waves, and for 15 minutes I've been trying to deadlift this boat with 2 other people to try and unsink it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna get on the sticks now, sure. And I'm shaking and I'm wet, and this is kind of where it starts. And
the captain guy and I are back on the yacht, literally
Helpless.
circling like a shark, just how close can we get? Please, what can we do? Is there a rope? We literally were like, is there a rope long enough that we could try to, what would that do?
And so here you
she
can
felt so
see
helpless.
as they're being pushed in, that
Yes,
boat
the
right
boat
there is
is
sunk.
sunk.
That was our
That's
little boat.
Meg.
boat.
And you
And-
can see me filming. My leg is in the corner there.
They tried to avoid it, and obviously, just because it's the way it is,
Oh my God,
they
they're
hit
like
it.
magnets.
And I
Yeah,
love
so
that
look
their
at these
first steps
waves.
on land were
In chaos. Yeah.
you
So
don't even
Natalia's
have
taken
your legs,
steps.
and you still have to hold back already.
So Meg has taken her steps. So it was really all 4 of them had to set foot on land in order for the record to be set.
But what I love about it is they did step foot on land, not on a
Yes.
dock,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yeah.
really
That's
cool.
true, yeah.
I always
so
thought that was
Laura,
cool.
her steps were so wobbly. So all we need is Emma.
Just get off the boat.
Emma, get off the boat.
Emma, get thrown
So
off
this was
the boat.
crazy. So I'm standing here filming. Ryan's on the drone, and here comes Emma. Music swells,
Wow.
and now they've completed this record.
And I still get goosebumps every single time.
So good. It was so emotional. And then it was like, all right, back to work.
All right,
Yeah,
now
back in the
Now
boat.
they've got to get the boat back out.
the tide is still coming in, and you can see how strong it is, and they just need to get the boat
Oh, and how
essentially
drowned that
facing the waves so that it's not crashing over the side.
Mm-hmm.
And all
so-
their stuff is on land. We've dumped out the dinghy boat's belongings, the
And so
life
all
jacket.
And
all
but
their
at-
stuff
At one point, you guys thought you were going to be stuck there because of the dinghy boat.
Yeah.
I don't know how you communicated this to me. Maybe it was before you left. You said, if something happens, just leave me. Like, if they are getting into shore, go film it.
I was like,
you can come pick us
I'll
up
live
tomorrow.
Here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whatever it takes
like,
to get
truly,
this
we have no
footage.
idea
Yeah.
how we could ever get back to you.
And my camera gear was all rented. You know, it's very scary. We got thousands of dollars of camera gear. And then, of course, it started to rain.
Yes.
And so we had
make
to
it
get
even better.
Even now that they've completed the record, it's still how do we get ourselves, Ryan and I, and our dry camera gear back onto
and get the moment
yacht.
of them seeing everyone, like the whole community was waiting for them to arrive and to like greet them.
And so all the girls and Tony and myself ended up flipping the dinghy, getting enough water out that we could actually row it back to the boat.
Ironically.
So I'm with Tony, and we have these two little tiny wooden oars as all the girls and Sarah are on Doris.
I had to walk onto Doris. I had never been on Doris before at sea. It was so exciting, but I had to walk into the water shoulder deep, holding the camera over my head, and then hand it off to Emma, who put it safely inside the boat, and then I had to awkwardly climb onto Doris. And so some of this is me filming them on Doris. So for a little stretch, I was on Doris with the Coxless crew. It was amazing.
Between their arrival and their arrival.
Yes, it was so exciting and humbling and wonderful. And then we had to get me off of Doris because I couldn't be in any of the pictures and videos, sadly.
Back onto the yacht.
And that was really awkward, like boat to boat. It was raining.
We had to like pass the camera between two boats of completely different heights. And then I had somehow pass Sarah.
Yes, I had to like jump on. This was all so crazy.
And Sarah gets on the boat, and I'm just like in a towel. And Sarah's like, "When did you have time to take a shower?"
Why are you showering?
It's like they handed
this
me.
guy's loving the attention.
They handed me a hose. Sprayed myself in the face.
I've just been in the middle of everything.
Totally.
You know.
Here's this big moment. So this is a helicopter filming. This wonderful guy Terry was up in a helicopter. We had to cue the helicopter at the right time. The drone could not fly this close to the airport, so the helicopter is getting the footage from above. So this is very loud in real life. Just the thumping of the helicopter right above, but this footage turned out great. And then we had, I think, about 9 cameras total rolling for all this between GoPros and the Sony and my camera. My dad was there as well on the dock, so you can see me in the pink shirt on the dock.
That's Sarah.
Filming them, and my dad's on the dock as well, which was so exciting. And Alana and Ryan both have angles on various sides, and the crowd, it was just
that one's
amazing.
I was wearing the captain's cut-off Carhartt shirt that was about 3 sizes too big. It was amazing.
You were a mess. And it was just so, my dad's on over on the right side. He did such a good job keeping all the media people off the dock. Like, we were like, we own this dock. This is our story to tell.
Get out of here, Discovery Channel.
You have the actual rights to it. So
it was really like, get all these people.
Back.
I'm so glad you're here, but get over to the side. And so my dad kind of kept everyone at bay for this amazing moment of them.
Little catch.
Standing. Yeah. Meg's leg catch.
It's Meg, of course.
And the song playing in the background, Andrew Day, Rise Up. This is so expensive to license, but so worth it. I actually heard this song for the first time on The Biggest Loser, if you can believe it, the weight loss show. And I was just like, what is this song? It's amazing. And then everybody started using it, but I just thought it was the perfect song for this moment.
This was just the best moment.
So good. Just tears, so many tears streaming down my face filming this. Chills, goosebumps. Just can't believe they made it. And we really had these 2 endings. You know, we had just gone through all of that on everything we just described, and then we're just standing here like, you know, maybe an hour later, just dumbfounded that they really have achieved this dream.
They achieved it, and we were able to be there.
Yeah.
Because
we very well
that
couldn't
was a
have
question
been there.
for a while. Like, will it just be the helicopter?
Yeah. What will this look like?
Sarah's dad was like, the GoPros and your dad might be there.
It was so exhilarating. Such a thrill. Such an incredible story. I love this. Laura looking at the camera.
Best.
So good.
Oh, goosebumps. Still.
I believe that everyone has their own.
So that's from the original Skype interview.
Oh, that is.
Yeah. Oh, so crazy. Wow. And this song is by Christine Castanon. She wrote this song just for the end credits, which I love. She's written songs for all 3 of my films. Yeah, this was just such a huge team effort and just such an adventure. And although we weren't on the boat, it just feels like one of the greatest adventures of our lives, probably.
Yeah, it really did.
Just to be a part of this and to not know what was going to happen, to have that faith and to, take the risk. And then for that to pay off for everybody, it was just really amazing. So yeah, we had so much footage, but it was just such a thrill to go through and to piece it all together with Pete. And the score is amazing by Jillian Aboud, and sound design by Lauren Hadaway. Just it really all came together to make this film what it is. And so
it's so great.
So awesome. And I can't believe it's 2020 and the film's been out for almost 3 years, and hopefully it will just live on and other people will get to see it because it's such a timeless story.
Yes.
Yeah. And all of the rowers, people often ask what they're up to now. They're all doing such really wonderful, exciting work still, as far as I know. Laura actually helped assist this guy, Mark Beaumont, cycle across the entire globe. So she was his support, his physiotherapist for that journey. She also did some work with Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, and she owns her own business now, helping other athletes.
Oh, that's great.
And
I didn't know all this.
Yeah, Natalia continues to travel the world. She does a lot of speaking engagements. She's in a very serious relationship now, which is exciting. Emma leads adventure tours for teenagers around the globe, and I think also does some teaching. Meg is a teacher, elementary school, I think. Izzy is still a lawyer, but does a lot of adventurous things on the weekends. And Lizanne owns her own osteopath practice in South Africa. Mm-hmm. So they're all just incredible human beings that took this journey and probably won't do anything like it again. But I think they're going to inspire people for a really long time.
And they set the record.
They did. Yeah, two world records.
What were they?
So rowing across the Pacific Ocean, a team of 4, and then, obviously
the one I can
they're
always
the
remember.
Fastest because they were the first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then
I think
they were women.
Were those the 2 records, the fastest and the 4?
They were the fastest in the first boat of 4.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to challenge this record, go for it.
Go for it.
I hope someone tells your story.
Bring a GoPro.
And that's how things happen. Whenever somebody hits a certain fastness with running, then the next people end up getting faster and faster. Like there's always oh, this is the fastest people can go. And then once one person's hit it, other people find ways to pass it.
Yeah. Totally.
So please.
Yeah.
It'd be great. But be safe.
Thank you for joining us. This was really fun. Hope you learned a little bit more about the behind the scenes of Losing Sight of Shore. And check it out on Netflix until May 1st, 2020. Otherwise, we're on iTunes, Amazon, and you can purchase a DVD now of the film at losingsightofshore.com. If you want to reach out, Instagram at losingsightofshore, and I check the messages. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.